up, which is very good. Okay, so this is lesson 4.4, okay? If you scan through, just really quickly scan through the lesson and look at what we're going to do, okay? So tell me what you notice about today's lesson, everybody. The whole thing is word problems, right? And then as soon as you hear that, then your anxiety goes up. Who says, yep, that's me? Okay, it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to. And I really think that you're going to feel fine, okay? That you're going to be fine with this, okay? So everybody look at the word quadratic. And I want you to highlight it because I really need you to remember what a quadratic is. What is a quadratic, everybody tell me? It's a parabola, okay? So it's a parabola, and the equation is going to look like y equals x to the, talk to me, x to the second. Good, okay? Okay, let's jump right into question 1. I want you to stick right with me today, okay? A soft drink manufacturing company, by the way, this section is highlighted that it's on the midterm and final and all that business, right? This is a big one, yeah. A soft drink manufacturing company has a daily production cost represented by this equation, where C is the cost in dollars and X is the number of units produced. Find the number of units that should be produced each day to yield the minimum cost and round your answer to the nearest whole number. Okay, everybody, listen. Don't go ahead of me, okay? Whenever we do word problems, the first thing I always want you to do, bless you, is to write X equals and Y equals, okay? And if you look at the equation, there's no y. I can see that there's no y. But you think in terms of x comma y. The first thing's the x, the second thing's the y. I know you do. So I'm trying to make a connection to that, okay? Whatever it's solved for is the y. So do you see how that equation is solved for c? So my y is the c, which stands for cost, okay? And then the x, if you look on the right-hand side, really is an x, and that stands for the number of units produced. If you take the, 30 seconds it's going to take you to write that down, it's going to help you to not get confused. And that's why people hate story problems, is because everything just starts getting all jumbled up. But if you set yourself up right at the beginning, it's going to be so much better. Okay, so read the question. Find the number of units that should be produced each day to yield a minimum cost. There's a word in that sentence that's really standing out to you. What is the word? Minimum. It is minimum. Okay, so what you're going to do, we've already done this, you guys. It's just the negative b over 2a method of finding the vertex. Okay, so everybody go h equals negative b over 2a. Now, be careful because it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is just in a weird order. So your a is 0.055 and your b is negative 120. So just don't get confused. The b is in front of the x, the a is in front of the x squared. So it's negative 120 over 2 times a, which is 0.055. Okay, now here's how I do this. First of all, I do the sign in my head. 2 negatives is going to give me a positive. Okay, now when you put this in your calculator, guys, make sure you do this, okay? Go 120 divided by. There are 2 things in the denominator. So tell me what I have to do right now. A parenthesis. So I'm going to do a parenthesis, and then I'm going to go 2 times 0.055, close it off, hit enter, and I get 1090.90. We're just going to leave it like that for a second, okay? Now, what does that represent? It's the x coordinate of the vertex. What does the x stand for? Number of units. Read the question. Find the number of units. That's my answer. And then it's asking you to round it to the whole number. So it's 1091. You guys, every single word problem has to have a label. I don't care if you think it's redundant. You have to put a label. What does the word redundant mean? Repetitive, yes, as if unnecessary. Always write it. So what should my label be? It should be units, and we're done. Okay, all right, question 2. The marketing department at TI has found when certain calculators are sold at a price of P dollars per unit, the revenue can be described by this equation. What unit price should be charged to maximize the revenue? You guys, it doesn't matter if it says max or min. Because if it's a parabola that opens up, it's a min. If it's a parabola that opens down, it's a max. You do it the same way either way. So don't worry about that. Okay, so everybody go. H is negative b over 2a, which is negative 21,000 over 2 times negative 150. 2 negatives gives me a positive, so I can forget about that. Oh, I forgot to start the right way. Sorry, everybody go x equals y equals. Let's jump over here and do that. It's solve for r. R is your y. The y is the revenue. Make sure you write that down. The x is not represented by the letter x. It's represented by the letter what, everybody? P. By the letter P. And if you read, that is the price. Okay? Sorry about that. Okay, now go back over to here. So that's 21,000 divided by 300, and that gives me 70. Okay? Now listen. What does that stand for? Can anybody tell me what does that stand for? The x coordinate of the vertex. What does the x stand for? Price. Read the question. What unit price? That's my answer. But I have to have a label. What's my label? Dollar sign is correct. Good. Read the second question, you guys. If this price is charged, meaning the $70, what is the maximum revenue? You are maximizing the y. Okay, so here's my y. It's revenue. Somebody tell me what to do. Just plug it in. We've already done this. So it's just revenue equals negative 150 times 70 to the second plus 21,000 times P, which is 70. Some of you are not showing enough work on your test, and I nabbed you just a little bit. Like I hit you with a point here and there, and I put work on. So I wrote the word work. So just be careful that you're showing enough. You have to show that. Okay, that's the minimum that you have to show. Okay, grab your calculator and go negative 150 parenthesis, 70, close it off, x squared, plus 21,000 times 70, close it off, hit enter, and you get 735,000. So here's what we're saying, guys, look. You've got this parabola that opens down. The x coordinate of the maximum is 70. The y coordinate is 735,000. They want the maximum revenue. That's the maximum y. I just want to make sure you guys understand what we're doing. So my label is dollars because revenue is money. That's my answer, and I'm done. There's a very, 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 very high chance you will see this kind of problem on the midterm and or the final. Okay? Okay, example 3. A baseball is hit at a point 3 feet above the ground at a velocity of 100 feet per second at an angle of 45 degrees with respect to the ground. The path of the baseball is given by this equation, where f of x is a height and x is a horizontal distance from home. Guys, everybody tell me the very first thing I want you to do. X and y. So let's come over here and get organized. X equals y equals. Whatever it's solved for is my y. It's solved for f of x. It says f of x is the height. So I'm going to come right there where it says height, and I'm going to write, where it says y, I'm going to write height in feet. The x really is represented by an x, and that's the distance from home in feet. So I'm going to say distance from home in feet. Okay, now I'm ready to do it. Where will the ball be when it reaches a maximum height? There's that word again, maximum. Okay, so I know when it says min or max, I'm going to do negative b over 2a. So I go h is negative b over 2a, which is negative 1 over 2 times negative 0.005. 2 negatives gives me a positive. Make sure you know how to put this in your calculator correctly, guys. You go 1 divided by, every person in the room tell me what to push right now. Parenthesis, yes. And I don't go 2 parenthesis, negative 0.05, close parenthesis. It's too much. I know those are multiplied. So I'm just going to go 2 times 0.005, close it off, hit enter, and I get 100. What does that stand for? The x. What is the x? Distance from home. Read the question. Where will the ball be? That's it. So it's 100 feet from home. That's your answer. Okay. What is the maximum height? That's the maximum y. Tell me what to do. Everybody just shout it out. Plug it in. This is so easy. This is just f of 100 is equal to negative 0.005 times 100 to the second plus 100 plus 3. And you can stick that whole thing in your calculator, but you have to write at least that. And when you do, you get 53. That's the y. Y stands for height. So what is the maximum height? 53 feet. That's it. Okay, question C. How far from home will it be when it reaches the ground? Okay, everybody freeze right there for 2 seconds. Okay. Was this the class I was in when I hung up the phone? Okay, never mind. I didn't say anything. Hey, and by the way, I did something funny. Nobody ever said it. I recorded a video for you to watch, and we staged it, and Leedy came in and interrupted me, and I yelled at her. Did you guys get that?
That was funny.
It was so funny. We were so funny. And nobody even said anything. I kept telling Leedy, nobody said anything. And it was so funny. Okay, anyway, here we go. Draw a quadrant one like that. Okay? And then here's the path of the ball. Okay? So it's going to be like this. It's going to get hit 3 feet above. It flies up, and there's your graph. Okay? Tell me where on that graph the ball is on the ground. Tell me that. Like, you can just describe it to me. Where is it? You're putting right over there. It's on the x-axis, right? So it's right there. Now, we don't know what that value is, but what do I know about that value? The y is 0, right? Well, that makes sense because look, the y is the height. So if the ball is on the ground, then the height is a 0, right? So everybody go negative 0.005 x to the second plus x plus 3 is equal to 100, or is equal to 0, sorry. Now, there are a lot of different ways to solve this. We could complete the square. Do you want to complete the square on this? No. Never. Do you want to sit for 10 minutes and try to factor this? No. Never. So what else could we do? Quadratic. Now, honestly, I'm going to tell you, I have some people miss this question because they don't know what the quadratic formula is. If you don't know the quadratic formula and you miss it, sorry to be harsh, I don't feel bad for you. You need to know the quadratic formula. You've used it forever, right? Everybody write it down. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now underneath that, everybody write x equals negative 1. b is 1, so that's negative 1. Plus or minus the square root of. Now I want you to listen. We talked about this briefly. b is 1. Please don't do this. 1 squared. Don't do it. It's the biggest place that people miss things. So don't write that as 1 squared. Write it as what? Tell me. 1. 1 squared is 1. Whatever that number is, it will always be positive because it was just squared. Okay? Minus 4 times a, which is negative 0.005, times c, which is 3. Make sure that square root is long enough. Okay? And then it's all over 2 times a, which is negative 0.005. Close it off. Okay, now, a couple of things I want to say, and it's super important that you listen really carefully, okay? They told me to go 2 digits past the decimal. So I now have permission to round. You never round unless you've been given permission, okay, unless they say round. So do I have to do this in pieces? Like some people will do this, don't write this down, and it's not the right numbers, but you get the idea. Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 32 over 4. And then they'll take the 32 and break it down and do all this stuff and pull out the pairs and all that stuff. Do I have to do that? I don't have to do any of that because I have permission to go right to the decimal. So all I have to do is set it up and just stick the whole thing in. Now, to this point, you've really not understood why I'm making you all get the same calculator. Today, you're going to understand. And today, you'll be happy that we have the same calculator, okay? So, I do have to add parentheses in 2 spots when I put this in my calculator. Can someone tell me where one of the spots is? Around the top, yeah, the numerator. Where's the other one? The bottom, yeah. Okay, now everybody freeze for 2 seconds and let me show you something else. Just look right here. Watch how simple this is, okay? Don't push anything, just watch for a second, okay? If I can get this in your head right now, we're good. Look, this is what you're going to push on your calculator. Parenthesis, -1, plus. To activate that, you hit second x squared. 1 minus 4, parenthesis, -0.005, close parenthesis, new parenthesis, 3, close it. Then you have to close it. Divide, parenthesis. This I enter in as 2 times -0.005. Close it, hit enter, and I'm done. So you just follow the line, okay? Here we go. Stick right with me. Some people miss it the first go round or the second go round. Okay, here we go. Parenthesis. Hit the white negative button. 1 plus second x squared. 1 minus 4 parenthesis. -0.005 close parenthesis. New parenthesis 3. Now we have to figure out how many parentheses to close. Okay, look at your calculator screen. The first parenthesis I hit right now, the first close parenthesis closes the what? Shout it out. The 3. The second parenthesis that I close off right now closes off the what? Can you tell me? It's not the numerator yet because, you know, I should have had you look, but if you arrow over to the left for a second, when you hit second x squared, the calculator automatically inserted a parenthesis. Do you see that parenthesis right there? So I've got to close it. So now arrow back over to the right. So the second close parenthesis closes off the radical. Am I done with closing parentheses? I have to do one more for the, tell me, for the numerator, okay? And then hit divide, parenthesis, 2 times -0.005, close parenthesis, hit enter, and this is what you get. Okay, you get x equals -2.9. They want it 2 digits, and it's 956. So it's -2.96. Okay, I want you to draw an arrow right here, and I want you to put 3 close parentheses. Go right there, so you remember. Now I'm going to show you a trick. Okay, everybody hit. I'll wait for just a sec because I feel like you're still kind of going. You ready? Everybody hit the up arrow. So now you're back on top of the equation. So I just did the plus, but there's also a negative. So there's 2 answers, right? So I'm going to arrow over until I'm on top of the plus that's right in front of the square root. I'm going to override it with a negative, and it's the blue negative button. And then right there in the middle of the equation, I can hit enter right there. Just hit enter. And my second answer is 202.96. Okay, now look at the graph. And let's think about this for a second. Okay, everybody watch. We're playing baseball. X stands for the distance from home. Here's the pitcher. So if I hit the ball, what does a negative distance mean in terms of baseball? It went behind me, right? And is that a fair ball if it goes behind me? No. And does negative feet make sense? No. So listen what you have to do. This is very important. You have to write that number showing I know there are 2. Then you have to write words that say I know that the negative doesn't work. And what you're going to write is invalid solution. That's all you have to write. And then your final answer is 202.96. Every answer has a label. What's my label? Feet. Okay, now don't touch your calculator. Do you have that 202.96 in your calculator? Who says yes, I still do? Okay, for those of you that still have it, I want to show you something. Okay, for those of you who don't have it, don't worry, we're going to do it again. Okay, right there, I've got that answer, right? I can check my answer in 15 seconds. Maybe 20. It's fast. Look what you do. See this store button on the left side, second button up? Hit that, and then hit enter. So right now you just stored in that 202.96 in as A. Now you go to the original equation, and you plug it in. And when I plug it in, what should I get if I just did it right? a 0. So everybody push this in. The white negative button, 0.005. Now to pull back up that number, you hit membar, which is right here, guys, third button up. So to pull it up, hit membar, enter, x squared, plus membar, enter, plus 3, enter, bam. I know I got it right. Why did I have to store it instead of using 202.96? Tell me that. Because that rounded, when I plug 202.96 in, will I get a 0? I will not get a 0 because it's not exact. So I stored the exact value in. If you were confused about that, don't worry. We'll do it again, okay? You're going to study so hard for your midterm, you guys. You're going to want to check every possible thing you can check, and that answer is so easy to check, okay? Okay. Hi, Hen. Have you checked in? Because you're super late. You have? Okay. Okay, question 4. A projectile is fired from a cliff 500 feet above the water at an angle velocity, or at a angle of 45 degrees with a muzzle velocity of 400 feet per second. In physics, it's established that the height of the projectile above the water is given by this equation, where x is the horizontal distance from the cliff. Okay, first thing I want you to do is take your pencil and very lightly, I want you to cross through the first sentence. In very lightly crossing through it, we're saying we don't have to use any of those numbers. Someone tell me why we don't have to use any of those numbers. They already gave us the equation. You're exactly right. Okay? Okay, so let's go x equals y equals. It says the height of the projectile is given by the equation. So the y is the h of x, which is the height, and this is in feet. I can read that in the stuff I crossed out. The x really is represented by an x, and that's the horizontal distance from the base of the cliff. So I'm just going to say distance from the cliff in feet. Question A. At what horizontal distance from the face of the cliff is the projectile at a maximum? There's that word. It doesn't matter if it says max or min, you do it the same way. So everybody go, h is negative b over 2a. That's negative 1 over 2 times negative 0.0002. Two negatives make a positive. So I go 1 divided by parenthesis 2 times 0.0002, close it off, hit enter, and I get 2,500. That's the x, which is the distance from the cliff. Read the question, from what distance from the cliff? So that's my answer, highlight it or box it. Find the maximum height, plug it in. This is so easy, we've already done it. So this is h of 2,500, you have to write this down. Negative 0.0002 times 2,500 squared plus 2,500 plus 500. Make sure you write down that line so you can tell Weber what you're doing, okay? So negative 0.0002, 2,500, square it, plus 3,000 is 1,750. That's a height. Every word problem has a label. My answer is feet. Who says this is easy? I totally get it. Wonderful. Question C. How far from the base of the cliff will the projectile strike the water? Okay, I want you to take this right here and hit and highlight strike the water. If it says strike the water or hit the ground, the process is always the same. What do? Tell me.
Y.
Perfect. Y is 0. So now I'm going to take that equation, negative 0.0002, x to the second, plus x, plus 500, and set it equal to 0. If you didn't follow me on the calculator stuff, now's your chance to follow me, okay? So stick close, okay? Okay, here we go. Everybody go, x equals. B is 1. Negative b is negative 1. Plus or minus the square root of 1 squared. Please just write that as a 1. Minus 4 times a, which is negative 0.0002, times c, which is 500, all over 2 times a, which is negative 0.0002. Okay? If I were you, I would take my pencil right now and I would add a parenthesis, set of parentheses around the top and the same thing around the bottom. You don't have to do that, but it's going to help you to put it in correctly. Okay, here we go. Let's do it together. Parenthesis. Hit the white negative button. 1 plus second x squared. 1 minus 4 parenthesis. Negative 0.0002, close it. New parenthesis, 500. Right now, tell me how many closes I have to do. 3. Close, close, close. Divided by, what's the very first button I hit now? Parenthesis. Then I go 2 times negative 0.0002, close it off, hit enter, and down below, write down x equals negative 458. They want it 2 digits, so that would be 04. Finding the next one is super easy. You just go up, right, right, right. So now you're on top of the plus. Override it with a blue negative button. Hit enter, and your second answer is 5,458.04. Don't touch your calculator. Don't clear it. This is feet. No such thing as negative feet. So this is invalid solution. I'm going to go 5,458.04 feet. And if I want to, I could stop right there. But I'm going to take the extra 20 seconds because I want to make sure I get this right. Okay? Okay, everybody hit store, enter. Then go negative 0.0002, membar, enter, x squared, plus membar, enter, plus 500, enter. I got a 0. I know I got it right. Who says I'm with you? 100%. Let me see how you're doing. Okay, great. Okay, now read question 5. Believe it or not, question 5 is similar to the first 4 that we've just done. It looks very different, but it's similar. A farmer has 1,000 yards of fencing to enclose a rectangular field. What are the dimensions of the rectangle that encloses the most area, and what is the maximum area? So there's that word again, right? Max or min. But why does this seem so much tougher than the other ones? Tell me. There's no equation. So now you have to come up with the equation, okay? Or right now we have to come up with the equation. Okay, so I am very, very visual. So what I want you to do is I want you to draw the rectangular field, okay? This first example might blow you away for a minute. Just stay with me. And we'll do it again a couple more times and it's going to click. So just stay calm, okay? Okay, on your field, you have a length and you have a width. I want you to write a note to yourself that says, use only one variable. Well, I just used 2. That's okay, because we're going to fix it, okay? So this farmer has 2,000 yards altogether. What are the dimensions that maximize it? Okay, well, this 2,000 yards has to cover all the way around. So an L and a W and an L and a W. So how many L's does it have to cover, everybody? 2 L's. And how many W's does it have to cover? 2 W's. Okay, and then I want you to write a note to yourself right there that says solve for L. You're always going to solve for L. Okay, so now you have 2L equals 2,000 minus 2W. All I did is move my 2W over. And I reverse the sides. You guys can do that. Now if I divide everything by 2, I have L equals 1,000 minus 2W. Minus W. Thank you for that correction. Minus W. Okay, who says so far so good? I'm with you. Great. Go to your picture and erase the L's and replace them with 1,000 minus W. And now I only have one variable in my picture, and that would be a W. Okay? You guys, what am I trying to maximize? Tell me that.
Area.
The area. Okay? What is the formula for the area of a rectangle? How do I do that, everybody? Length times width. Okay? So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this length right here and this width right here, and I'm going to multiply them together. So I have area equals W multiplied by 1,000 minus W. So all I'm doing is finding the area. Okay, so now I have area equals 1,000 W minus W to the second. Now I'm going to reorder it so my squared is first. Negative W to the second plus 1,000 W, just so I don't mess up. Okay, I want you to freeze right there. Okay, just freeze right there. The rest of this problem, we've already done. Okay, so just freeze and I'm going to recap. Look right here. So this was my length and this was my width. So I knew the 2,000 had to cover 2 lengths and 2 widths. Move my 2W over, divide by 2. Now I know the length is 1,000 minus W, so I put it here. I'm trying to maximize the area. So I take this dimension, which is a W, multiply it by 1,000 minus W, and I've got that for my equation. Who says I understand? The rest of the problem is home free now. It's just like the other ones. So you're trying to maximize. So you go, my H is negative B over 2A. So that's a negative 1,000 over 2 times negative 1. 2 negatives give me a positive. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. Now, here's where people get confused. What does that stand for? Well, that's the x-coordinate of the vertex, right? Look at the equation. What does the x-coordinate of the vertex in that equation I just highlighted stand for? The width, okay? So this is the width. Okay, you need to know the first thing you always find, the x-coordinate is always the width on these things, okay? Okay, now read it. What are the dimensions? I think, and this is where people started getting a little confused in the past, dimensions, some people don't know what that means, I think, that word. All that means is what's the length and what's the width, okay? So now I know one of my answers is 500. So I'm going to go 500, and this is all in yards. So I'm going to go 500 yards by, and now I've got to find the other one. How do I find the other one? Well, it's right here. There's my formula for length. So you have to write down length is 1,000 minus width, which is 500. So my length is 500. If you don't show me how you got it and you just do it in your head, I'm going to take off a point right there. So you've got to talk to me. You've got to talk to the reader, okay? So it's 500 yards by 500 yards. Those are the dimensions. That's what they asked for. Read just one second. Read the next question. What is the maximum area? Okay, you have 2 ways to do this. You can take your x-coordinate of the vertex and you can plug it back in, and that gives you your area. Okay, I wouldn't do that. I already know the length and the width. So I'd say area is length times width, which is 500 times 500, which is a 25 with 4 zeros, so that's 250,000, okay? And that's an area, so my label would be yards, talk to me, yards squared, and I'm done with the problem, okay? I know it's a lot, don't worry, we're gonna do more, okay? It's gonna seem very easy after a while. Okay, everybody freeze right there for 2 seconds. Go ahead and ask your question, honey. Right here. Okay, all right, here we go. Question 6. A woman wants to make a run for her dog. It's rectangular, so let's draw a rectangle. The pen will be up against her house, and she has 1,000 feet of fencing to make the run. What dimensions should she make the run so it's as large as possible, and what is the maximum area? Okay, so guys, sometimes this thing that you're making is up against a barn or a river, or this one's up against a house. So if I were you, I would always do that. So this is where the woman's house is. Therefore, we are not going to be needing fencing right there. Could you do it on the right or the left or the top? Yes, you can do it wherever you want. Make it easy and just always do it on the bottom. And then that way you don't get confused, okay? Okay, so this is a W, and this is a W, and this is an L. So altogether, she has 1,000 feet. So 1,000 has to cover how many L's, guys? 1 L, and how many W's? 2 W's, okay? What do I always solve for right here? L, okay? So you have L equals 1,000 minus 2W. Now I'm going to go to my picture, and I'm going to erase the L with 1,000 minus 2W. You're always trying to maximize the area on these problems, okay? So your area is going to be length times width, which is W times 1,000 minus 2W, which is 1,000W minus 2W to the second. If you want to reorder it so it's in the right order, negative 2W to the second plus 1,000W. Okay? Now we're going to maximize it. I know that my x coordinate is always stands for the tell me that. Look at the equation. What does the x coordinate on my vertex always stand for? Tell me. It's always the width. Okay? So everybody go, h is negative b over 2a. That's negative 1,000 over 2 times negative 2. That's 1,000 divided by 4, which is 250. That's my width. Read the question. What dimensions? So my answer is going to be 250 feet by something. Go to the length formula, and you have to show work for this. Some of you are slacking a little in the work area, and they will eat you alive on the midterm and the final if you do that. So don't do that, okay? So length equals 1,000 minus 2 times 250, which is 500. So my dimensions are 500 feet by 250 feet. There's another question. What is the maximum area? Listen what you can do. You can take this 250 and you can plug it in for W. You'll get the right area. I think that's tougher. I already know the length and the width. So I'm going to go area equals length times width, which is 250 times 500, which is 125,000 feet squared. Done. Who says I get it? Let me see. Okay, yay. It's not going to get much worse, really. Okay, here's number 7. They start doing weird things like cutting it in half, but it's the same thing. A woman wants to enclose a rectangular garden attached to her home. So let's start drawing the picture. There's your garden, and there's her home. You don't have to label home. Just get rid of that side. She has 1,200 feet of fencing. One side is the garden, is up against her home, and she doesn't need it. The woman's going to divide it into 2 identical plots. Okay? Look right here for 2 seconds. That's parallel to one of the sides. So it could be like this, or it could be like this. Okay? In context of the problem, it doesn't matter. The answer is going to end up the same no matter which way you divide it. Okay? And we're going to talk about why that's the case in a second. You guys are going to tell me why it doesn't matter. Anyway, if you ever have to cut in half, I always cut it in half the same. I make it easy on myself. I always put the house here, and I always cut like that, because then it's always the same and I don't get confused. Okay? So now we have an L and a W and a W, and is that all I have?
No.
What do I have?
Another W.
One more W. Okay? So this 1,200 feet of fencing has to cover 1 L and 3 W's. What do I always solve for, guys?
L.
L. So it's going to be L equals 1,200 minus 3W. Come over here, get rid of the L, replace it with 1,200 minus 3W. They want to maximize the entire thing, not half of it, the whole thing. So you're going to go, my area is, and if you just did W times 1,200 minus 3W, you don't have to go length times width and all that stuff. So there's that. Just multiply the 2. I'm going to distribute and write it in the right order in the same step. So that's negative 3W to the second plus 1,200W. There's nothing wrong with that. So I distributed and flipped them. Okay? So now I'm going to go, H is negative 1,200 over 2 times negative 3. Negative over negative is a positive. 1,200 divided by 6 is 200. Everybody in the room, tell me what that stands for. The width. Read the question. if the woman divides the garden into 2 identical plots, what is the largest area? Does she want the dimensions this time?
Yeah.
She does not. It didn't say what are the dimensions. It said what is the largest area. You have 2 options. One option is to find the length and then multiply the length and the width together. I don't know if I would necessarily do that. What's the other option? Plug it in. So I'm going to go area equals -3 times 200 to the second plus 1200 times 200. Grab your calculator. When you put that in, you get 120,000. The area is, or it is in feet, and area is, tell me, squared. There you go. Who says I got it? Let me see. Okay. Okay, here's 8. Tell me how many we have. How many examples do we have? 10? Okay. Here's 8. A man owns a field. They're always rectangular fields. They should tell you, but they're always rectangular. Okay? He has 2 sons, and he's going to divide it in half. Please always divide it in half like that. One of his sons will farm one side, and the other one will farm the other side. He has 2,400 feet of fencing. What dimensions should he use, blah, 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 to maximize, and what is the maximum? So there's no house. So we have an L and an L. And tell me, WWW, right? So now we have 2,400 has to cover 2 L's and 3 W's. Solve it for L. So you have 2L equals 2,400 minus 3W. Divide by 2. So you have L equals 1,200 minus 3/2 W. Now, I don't really like that 3/2. Okay? If you push, don't do it, but if you push 3 over 2 in your calculator, what do you get? It's 1.5. Is it exactly 1.5? Yes, it is. So if it's exactly 1.5, let's make it 1.5. Way better. What if that was 2/3? What is 2 divided by 3? This is important, so listen. What is 2 divided by 3? 0.6 repeating. So could I replace that with like 0.6 or 0.7? No. If it's not exactly, you have to leave it. Okay? Okay, so let's come over here to our picture and make our L's 1,200 minus 1.5 W's. I'm trying to maximize the whole thing. So it's that big guy times that big guy. So I get area equals W times 1,200 minus 1.5 W. So it's negative 1.5 W to the second plus 1,200 W. Yes, sir?
So like the W in the middle, the width one, that doesn't affect the area at all?
It doesn't, because the area of a rectangle is always just length times width. But we did include that W over here, so it affected the representation of the length. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now let's maximize it. So it's negative B over 2A. That's my H. So it's negative 1,200 over 2 times negative 1.5. So that is 1,200 divided by 3, which is 400. That represents the what again? Tell me. The width. Do they want the dimensions? Yes. So the answer, one of the answers is 400 feet by something feet. How do I find the other dimension? Plug it into this guy right here, the formula for the length, because that's what I'm looking for, right? So it's going to be length equals 1,200 minus 1.5 times 400, and when you put that in your calculator, you get 600. So it's 400 feet by 600 feet. Do they want the area? Read the question. What is the maximum area? Yes. So I'm going to go area equals 400 times 600, which is a 24 with 4 zeros, 240,000 feet squared. There's my second answer. Okay, I want you to freeze for a second. I want to talk about something. Every single one of these problems, I have never said that the width is this, don't write it on your paper, and that your length is that. I have never done that. And if I did do that, I would actually be wrong if I did that. Why? Say it again. Say it really loud, because I changed them around.
Change them around.
What do you mean?
Like you can have the width be the length.
And what would that do? You're right. What would that do to your garden? Yeah. So you don't know if this garden or whatever it is 600 long and 400 tall, or it might be 400 wide and 600 tall. You don't know. But the area of both of those, no matter which way it's flipped, is always 240,000. So you don't know. Who says I understand that? Raise your hand. That's why, you know how we put the house at the bottom? If we put the house on the side, it doesn't matter, because you don't know if it's flipped which way, and you don't know where the house is, but the numbers end up the same no matter how you set it up. Okay? All right, question 9. Okay, so this problem, I don't know if I highlighted this or not, but this is a tough problem, and it showed up on my midterm or final several times, and the first time it just annihilated my students. It was bad. So I want you to just watch me do it for a second. Don't write it down. Whenever I say watch me do it and don't write it down, what do you think I'm going to do? Why am I telling you not to write it down? Because I'm going to do it wrong. Yeah. Okay, so watch me do it wrong. A football stadium sells X amount of hot dogs for a price of P dollars. What is the price of the hot dog that maximizes the revenue? Okay, watch me do it wrong. So I say, okay, here's that maximize. I know my H is negative B over 2A. So that would be negative 18,000 over 2 times negative 2,000, which is 18,000 divided by 4,000, which is 4.5. It's a price, add my dollar sign, there's my answer. It's wrong. Why is it wrong? Go ahead.
Because the variables are flipped around in the equation?
No. So I think you know, but I think it's not completely connecting. I think you're almost there. Go ahead.
It's not quadratic.
Yeah. This is a line. Does a line have a vertex?
No.
I'm applying the vertex formula to a line. That's not going to work. So I know this is supposed to be a parabola. There's something in that I haven't even addressed that tells you what you're supposed to do. Can anybody see it? Yeah, that's right. What are you trying to maximize?
Revenue.
The revenue. Look at this right here. That's the guy I need. So everybody write, revenue equals the X, which is that top yellow highlighted stuff, 18,000 minus 2,000 P, and you multiply that by P. And now when I distribute, I get negative 2,000 P to the second plus 18,000 P, and now I've got my parabola. So you can't apply the vertex form to a line. You have to turn it into a parabola. Now look what happens. I did it in a manner that it worked out correctly. So the work that I wrote is right. The answer that I wrote is right. But if I didn't make it a parabola, if I applied it to a line, I get nothing. So it just demolished my students like 2 years ago or something like that. So anyway, let's do it. So it's just negative B over 2A. I have it written down. That's negative 18,000 over 2 times A, which is negative 2,000. So it is $4.50. But if you didn't show this work, then we know you applied it to a line and you lose all the points. Okay? Some of you guys, I don't know if it was you guys or 1010, I think it was 1010. There was a question about money and they left it like that. Make sure if it's money, you always go to the nearest cent, right? Okay, what is the maximum revenue? They want the maximum Y. Everybody tell me what to do. Plug it in. So everybody look. X equals 18,000 minus 2,000 times 4.5. Is that right? What did I do wrong?
You didn't put it in the.
I plugged it back into the line. Yeah, you don't plug it into line, you plug it into the parabola. So it's revenue equals negative 2,000 times 4.5 to the second plus 18,000 times 4.5. Grab your calculator, negative 2,000 parenthesis, 4.5, close it off, x squared plus 18,000 times 4.5, close it off. You get 40,500. Every word problem has a label. What's my label? Dollar sign. Yep. Done. Okay. This question is bad. So what I do every semester is I edit my workbooks, and anything that has come up on the final or the midterm, I make sure that I address it in my notes. So this also came up on a midterm and a final and was not successful with my students, okay? So I don't want that to happen to you, so that's why I stuck it on here. Okay, here we go. An accepted relationship between stopping distance D in feet and the speed of the car V in miles per hour is given by this equation on dry concrete. Listen to the question. It's so tough. How many feet will it take a car? Actually, that's not even how they said it. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it was. Let's just go with it. I felt like it was more confusing. How many feet will it take a car traveling 42 miles per hour to stop on dry level concrete? 42. So let's do this. Let's go x equals y equals. I know there are no x's and y's, but that's what you think about. It's solve for d. So the d is the what? Tell me. It's the y. Whatever it's solved for is the y. So the y is the distance in feet. And actually, I'm going to put stopping. It's my stopping distance. Okay? And then x is represented by a v. And what does that stand for? It's just the miles per hour. So it's like the velocity. Okay? Read the question. How many feet will it take a car traveling 42 miles per hour to stop on dry level concrete? Where do I put my 42? Do I put it in for D or do I put it in for V? Tell me. V. Okay. So you go D equals 2.1 times 42 plus 0.05 times 42 squared. Okay. So stick that in your calculator. And you get 176.4. 176.4 what? Tell me. Feet. Does that seem redundant? Yep. Because they already said feet. It doesn't matter. Just always put it. This is the one that was so bad. Look. Don't write it. Don't write what I write for a minute. If an accident occurs 150 feet in front of you, what is the maximum speed you should be avoiding or should be traveling to avoid being involved? Round it to 2 decimal places. Look what my students did. Maximum, negative b over 2a, blah, 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 blah. And it was wrong. And they lost it. So look, I hate that they do this. And I actually asked them if they could reword it to prevent that confusion, and they didn't. And so we just have to overcome it. So everybody look. If an accident occurs 150 feet ahead of you, what is the fastest you can be going to be able to stop in time? That's what they're asking. So tell me about this 150. It has to be incorporated in there somehow. So is the 150, would that be the D, the distance, or would it be the V, the miles per hour? Tell me. D. It would be the D. So you go 2.1 V plus 0.05 V squared is equal to 150. Now what do I do? Do I do quadratic right now? Move your 150 over. So I have 0.05 V to the second plus 2.1 V minus 150 is equal to 0. Some people got that far with my other students, and then they started doing the negative b over 2a, and that's not what you're supposed to